This is our last question. Why are some people born only to suffer and die? For instance, a child born into a starving country that dies soon after its birth. And at the same time, there are others who have so much, who grow to become immensely wealthy, live to a ripe old age, and then pass on.
We visited on this a bit earlier. There are many reasons why people incarnate into the state that they're incarnating into. And in actuality, not everyone incarnates over and over again. I don't want to leave the impression that reincarnation is a hard and fast rule. It is not. It is common, but it is not by any means a must-obey rule. Some would say that a starving child that is born suffers and dies without having any real life, without having any real experience, was paying back a debt of karma. But there are several things wrong with that. First, karma is not a debt. The concept of karma means action. Karma is something that is done, not something that you must suffer or pay back. Second, you and I cannot really judge why a being would choose to do what it does. In order to know exactly why that being chose to embody itself into a suffering and dying child, you would have to be that being, or you would have to be so close to that being that you knew what they were thinking, or you could connect to the universal consciousness, find that being, and connect to their thoughts. But here are some reasons why some beings may choose to do this. The most obvious would be guilt. Perhaps they were selfish and greedy in one life, and they feel that somehow they need to make amends for it. But even though this is the most obvious human ideal, it is not really very likely, because once returning to the universal order, a being would not feel a need to chastise itself such. The second would be that perhaps there's an experience to be learned there. Perhaps the being who incarnates that way believes they can learn something from this. Maybe they want to learn compassion. Maybe they want to learn panic. Maybe they want to learn anything. There's almost an infinite number of things they could be trying to learn. A third possibility, perhaps the mother or a sibling or someone who that child is going to be near is someone the child is very close to, someone the being is very close to. Perhaps the child does not want the mother to suffer alone, so enters the dream to be with her, if only for a short time. Another possibility, perhaps that starving child hoped, if even the hope was lost, perhaps they hoped that by their very existence they would give the man in the mansion, they would give the wealthy woman with the diamonds a moment to think about the suffering of others. Perhaps they could touch something in that person and and enlighten their flame of compassion. We don't know why that particular being would enter that particular starving child. But I would believe that they had a reason. Even if the reason is something that is hard to understand from a human perspective. Likewise, there are many reasons to choose to be rich. Could you think of a harder place to be to accomplish your mission? Now don't jump to the conclusion that because you are wealthy, that you would have everything you need so that you could concentrate on mission and not concentrate on trying to make ends meet. Sometimes when you're born rich, you lose perspective. You live in a fantasy world that's a dream within a dream. You have many more distractions. Remember, it's easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle. Perhaps a being who chose to be born into a rich body was looking for a challenge to find themselves amongst these distractions. Perhaps they came with the idea that they would have great tools in order to shower compassion on others, and some do. Though it's probably not something most people know. Many, many, many wealthy people are benefactors, silent benefactors in most cases, to the people who do not have as much. To be wealthy does not necessarily mean to be selfish or to be evil. Many wealthy people are very socially conscious. Many wealthy people care about others who do not have wealth. Do they care about them to the point of giving all their wealth away and becoming one of them? Probably not. Nevertheless, without their generosity, it would be more difficult for those who have not. That said, we must consider that the majority of people who enter this world probably don't enter on either of those spectrum ends.
Well, that concludes our questions. Thank you very much, Alex.
You're welcome, dear one. I hope you found the answers helpful.